Chapter 5. The Unfrozen Spring of Kangba Kunlun. During that spring, all of China seemed shrouded in the specter of war. The Soviet Union had amassed over 1 million troops within 3 army groups along China's northern border. Frictions also arose continuously with India, our neighbor, at the borders. Observing these predicaments, the nationalist forces stationed on the island saw an opportunity for counterattack, while the U.S. 7th Fleet was on high alert, ready for engagement. The Chinese government's top echelons felt the encroaching threat of international adversaries and were re-evaluating their strategic deployments. The military was expanding, preparing for war and famine, digging deep shelters, and stockpiling grains. Citizens actively engaged in drills for nuclear, chemical, and aerial defenses. During my trip home, I was informed by an insider that my family's situation would soon be clarified organizationally, proving that my grandfather had the status of a middle peasant, not a landlord. My parents' release was imminent. Concurrently, due to the PLA's extensive recruitment, one of my father's old comrades helped facilitate my enlistment as a backdoor soldier. Uncle Chen, my father's comrade and the chief of staff at the military district, had fought beside my father during their entry into the Korean War conflict. On the snowy plains of Gama Plateau, they were part of the encirclement against the 1st Marine Division of the U.S. military. Amid a deluge of American ordnance and napalm that turned night into day, the volunteer forces bravely charged through layers of fire. In that brutal campaign, my father, braving temperatures below -40°C, carried badly wounded Uncle Chun out of the dead pile. Their bodies, frozen together by their own blood, could only be separated at the aid station with the help of scissors cutting through their flesh. Their bond transcended life and death, and now, as both my parents' historical issues were near resolution, arranging for an old comrade's son to join the armed forces was not a difficult task for Uncle Chun. In a sense, the practice of leveraging connections, or using the back door, began within the military system. Uncle Chun inquired about my preferred military branch. I expressed a wish to join the Air Force, lured by the prospect of a pilot's decent meals. With a laugh and a pat on my head, he told me piloting was not that easy and suggested I start in the field army to toughen up. Later, he could transfer me to work at the district headquarters. I replied that I'd rather stay with the grassroots units than return to an office environment. I wanted to bid goodbye to Fatty, Yin-Zi, and the others back at Gangang Village, but time did not permit it, so I left them a letter. There was a sense of guilt about joining the army while my friends remained as educated youths in the remote countryside, perhaps a feeling of not sharing their adversity. However, that guilt dissipated after 3 months in the army, and only then did I fully comprehend the relative comfort of our life as educated youths in the mountains. Drafted by the enlistment office, I was unexpectedly rerouted from a unit slated to become an armored division. Just 3 months into new recruit training camp, a Central Military Commission order reassigned our unit to Station 62 at the Kunlun Pass on the Qing-Haidabet Plateau, converting us into an engineering troop. It wasn't that strange. At the time, troops nationwide were digging defense shelters, anti-aircraft, ammunition depots, strategic concealment. The Army was almost universally in a state of excavation. The difference was that my unit transitioned from amateur diggers to professional ones. Our mission, a first-class secret, was to construct a massive underground strategic facility deep in the Kunlun Mountains. While the purpose of this facility was not explicitly disclosed, any intelligent soldier might have guessed. Strict confidentiality protocols meant we never discussed this openly, yet rumors swirled that upon completing the project, we might be reintegrated into the mobile field forces. Kunlun Pass, or Kunlun Yaku, has an elevation of 4,767 meters and represents a permafrost desert landscape built of ancient, strongly eroded metamorphic rocks. Apart from digging trenches, my division knew nothing of civil engineering or construction, prompting many engineers to come and guide us during a rigorous 5-month training program. My squad, as an advance party, forged through the unfrozen spring and into the depths of the vast Kunlun Range, tasked with finding secluded spots suitable for construction. The unfrozen spring, also known as Kunlun Spring, never freezes, releasing crystalline waters year-round from a granite-set pool by the north bank of the Kunlun River, with no one knowing where its vent leads to. Higher-ups forbade us from bathing there, respecting local Tibetans who revered it as a sacred spring and regularly worshipped the waters. In the early days of Tibet's liberation, before such rules were imposed, 3 soldiers drowned while bathing in the spring, supposedly due to the high sulfur content in the water. Their graves were erected close to the station, which also served as our final supply depot. Entering the Kunlun Mountains ignited severe altitude sickness among us, leaving everyone's faces purplish and visions clouded, as if the grand Kunlun slopes unfolded like mighty silver-gray dragons before our dizzy eyes. Our small detachment of just over a dozen men seemed insignificant compared to the majestic, infinite mountain ranges. As we marched, I recalled the book passed down by my grandfather. It spoke of the Kunlun peaks as the progenitors of the world's dragon lines, hiding countless secrets from ancient times to the present. Legends suggest the burial towers of the mythical Tibetan hero king, Gezer, and portals to demonic realms lie among these undulating mountains. In ancient Tibetan customs, sky burials were not the highest honor. Tower burials were reserved for the most prestigious.